you have to think of the whole guest experience. It's not just the property. You have to think about what they're going through when they're driving to your property and when you're leaving your property and what that drive looks like. So I say that because you don't want your guests to be driving like 30 minutes up a gravel road before they even get to your property. So imagine, like, a lot of times they're new to the area. Sometimes they're driving in at night. Sometimes their reception will cut out. So you don't want them annoyed by the time they get to your property and scared, essentially. So that's the biggest thing, is we like to be off of some sort of double lane state maintained road, or at least a paved road going into our land.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? Man, Alex, I'm really excited to have you in this lab because this gentleman is a practitioner. We were geeking out about some digital marketing off the air. And I'll tell you a reason. I'll tell you why in a second. It's because, when a practitioner like Alex comes into the lab and, has, walked the walk, then he can talk the talk to serve the most amount of people as possible. But Alex, we connected from shout out to we got to give a shout out to Mark every time now. I don't know.
Every time.
The royalty game is strong. Mark, we got you, brother. Thank you for Boostly Connect, invite only group. That's how we were able to connect. But you know what? I gotta say, you are already on our radar because it's you double booked after, because I said my team already had you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna low key take that one, low key. Yeah. But Alex, bro, what's going on, man? Thanks for stepping into the lab.
Thanks for having me on, man.
You're an interesting guy, man. I was looking you up. I'm like, that's interesting. When did also in the lab we call them experiments, right? And the reason we come in here, we believe that in real estate, people say, I want to get into real estate. There's so many verticals.
Yeah.
That for you to just say real estate, we got to break that down. And the reason why we even have this show is because it's like, okay, there's a lot of different types of real estate. Why don't we hear from the horse's mouth, those who have gone through a niche and then who have capitalized on that niche, so that you can as well resonate or at least connect with the one you want to go with, maybe experiment a few, see which one you like, and then double down with the proofs of concepts that you've received from tapping into the show. So with you, if I'm at a real estate meetup, or I like to say when I meet you on a plane, because I travel a lot, and I say, hey man, what do you do for a living? What do you say these days?
Yeah, I'm a short-term rental developer and manager, and that usually, they didn't even know that existed. So I was like, that usually starts the conversation. You're like, what do you mean short-term rental developer? Yeah.
Hell yeah. And you're the founder of, you're called Sargon Investments. Is it Sargon?
Yep.
Dude. And then did you do something with the Marine Corps? Like you were a part of
I was a Marine for 4.5 years. Yeah, I was an infantryman by trade, but I was part of the Marine Corps Honor Guard, and I was stationed in Washington, D.C. So we would do like any foreign dignitary that would come, we would travel with them, and then or not travel with them, we'd like greet them, and then we like handle like all the funerals at like Arlington Cemetery and stuff for the Marine Corps. Yeah.
Bro, that might be the hack. Every time I have someone who is like, I think you're built different, bro. Like
Oh no, not at all, man. I admire the stuff that you've done, man.
Listen, all I'm saying is a little kind of discipline, right? And my discipline goes as far as back as being an athlete, like in all the way up to college, 6 a.m., 5 a.m. But there's a certain level of like discipline that I see, either if it's, military, Marines, like it just, there's something there. Or if you've been part of a team and like, start up. Would you not agree? Like there's that.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
I've had this conversation before, and I've really tried to dive deep into that. And I think I got it figured out. I think it's about structure. So like we were just talking about mentors a second ago before we hopped on. Yeah. The military, especially the Marine Corps, they will structure everything to a point where you'll hate it. But like there's a structure there that like I was very used to, and it's almost like, here's the roadmap. If you follow it down to a T, you're going to be successful. Which most of the things, like that's how that happened in the military for me. So when I left the military, I've always been looking for specific structures, whether it be courses, books, coaches. So I think that's the mentality that I have, is like, I'm always looking for some sort of structure to help me with my goals, because no matter what goal you have in whatever business outside of real estate, like there's a coach, a course, a structure somewhere that someone's already done most of the work. You just got to figure out how to tap into that.
Wait, that's so interesting, man. I actually have never thought of it that way. You're saying it's kind of like if I got that correctly, it's like it becomes part of your identity. Like you need structure, right? Or you feel lost without it.
Yeah, and then
you're
like
always
a sense
seeking
of
for that.
like a sense of belonging as well. That's why we like join masterminds and everything, because like we network with like-minded people. It might be different businesses, but it's like it's the same thing. It's like I would look at the Marine Corps as like a 4.5-year mastermind, because you're just like you live and breathe like you work, you sleep, you work, party with the same group of guys. So I think that's what really helps, is like some sort of like support element. And I didn't, it took me a couple of years to realize that outside of the military, because you just like leave and all that stuff is gone, right? And so like it took me a couple of years to realize that, but once I actually finally started to think about it, it's like, okay, like the authors of books are my mentors, the people who run the courses, or I have a couple coaches in my life, like those are my mentors, those are my structure.
So which mentor can you pinpoint was pivotal in the beginning of your experiments, if you want to take us a step back, because we got a little
military or real estate?
Let's talk about well, do you think, is there a significant connection? Because I would like to touch on
I mean, it's one of those things like asking a parent to like who's their favorite child, but I'll talk about all the significant mentors in my life for sure. The first one, and I'll send this episode to him after that, because I didn't even plan on talking about him. Daniel Robert, I think he got out as a first sergeant. He just got out of the military, but that was like the first true mentor I had. We actually ended up doing our MBA side by side, and then we're finishing up a doctorate together as well. But yeah, he was the first like badass I met, like that actually like had bearing, that was a phenomenal leader, didn't yell at anyone, but like got his point across. That was probably my first like huge leader, first like mentor was Daniel Robert.
What is there, because I try to be like very like mindful, like the questions I ask around like
you're fine, man.
Those kind of people, or those kind of people, or, and I'm just thinking a lot with you here. Like when I think of it, when I'm surrounded by like some of my, like, I would say like people I look up to, I'm like, damn, like I'm in the same room, like what is the best use of my time and question that I can ask? And sometimes you know what you got to do at this point, and it's just about getting the reps in. But what's something that still sticks with you today that might be echoing? Maybe it's a structure, a framework, an idea, concept, or discipline that stays with you today. You would think that comes top of mind.
Yeah, from that specific mentor, in the Marine Corps we have something called like fighter leader concept, where it's like you would never ask someone to do something that you're not willing to do. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've taken from mentors of the military, like good mentors of the military, is that. Now that doesn't mean like you can't delegate most of the work, but you need to be like, it's like, say if you like own like a hospitality industry or whatever, like if you're willing to freaking clean, like I've cleaned properties before, like when I first started, I was cleaning properties. So stuff like that, like I don't ask anyone to do anything that I haven't either done, or I understand how much it sucks, or like just understand like what the workload is going to be.
Facts. And
that's one of the things. It's like you learn how to do something and then you delegate it if you don't enjoy it. Like if you don't think it's like your number one thing you should be focused on.
Yeah, I also think from a business perspective, because I'm like that too. Obviously, I've hired people who do a better job than I.
Yeah, and that's
right?
that's the other side to that, is like hiring people that know way more than you, that can take your business to the next level. So, but it's like you're never above any of the people that
no 100%
for you. Yeah, that's what I gained from that.
Yeah, and where I was gonna go with that, Alex, is that I always tell my team, like, I've done this. I might not be able to do it as good as you do, but I've done it, and therefore it's also good for you to know from a at the business level. It's like how long things should take. Like if someone, know what I mean. Like this is why they always say, like, you don't just go into like building an app if you don't have like a dev background, because the guy might say, hey, this is going to take you 6 months when it's really a 6-week thing. So you really got to be aware. You don't have to do everything, but it's good for you to be aware. That I find that interesting though. So you talk about the beginning. That's a good segue. Like, you've cleaned your properties before. What was your first real estate encounter? Like real
Yeah,
estate,
man.
just so I understand,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in the community understands like how you even got to where you're at today. Because you have a very respectable kind of place where you're at today. So
Yeah,
where did it
so
start?
about a year before my enlistment was ending, I just decided I didn't want to re-enlist. I wanted to go to school and stuff, and then just do my own thing. I didn't leave the Marine Corps because I hated it. I just felt like I could do more, or I could do other things. So about a year out of getting out, I really started to research different things, different business models, M&A, stocks, crypto, real estate. Real estate really caught my eye, and then obviously sub-niching into that, like you just said. I originally landed on flipping. And so I joined a flipping mentorship when I was still in the Marine Corps. It wasn't that much. I think it was like maybe $1,000 or $2 to join like someone who can actually help you, like a group coaching thing. And when I realized the person that ran that program, all of their long-term wealth, this is back in 2015, 16, all of their long-term wealth was tied into short-term rentals. So I was like, okay,
That's very
under,
niche.
yeah. Even back then, I was like, okay, I understand the flipping thing, but I didn't like putting from finding a property to flipping it, like to getting rid of it. I mean, that was maybe like an 8-9 month process. I mean, so I was like, I want something that like you're gonna put your blood, sweat, and tears into something and then flip it and just get a quick buck. That's great, and nothing against anyone who does that. But like, I really wanted to burn. I understood the concept of like building long-term wealth. So I got on a call with him and I was like, hey man, like I really want to do this. Can you help me like choose a market? And he helped me choose Asheville, North Carolina, which is where I currently live right now. So like the day I got out of the military, I moved straight here. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. And he stayed a little bit with me, but it was practically like I was on my own, because that's not what he taught. He didn't teach short-term rentals. He taught the flipping thing.
Yeah.
So I got my broker's license when I moved here. And I honestly, I went right into, I had some money saved up from the military. So I had like a little bit of flexibility, but I essentially started looking for a short-term rental. And at that time, again, I had a little bit of money saved, but not enough where like everything I was either looking at was way out of my price range, or it was in my price range, but it wouldn't have done well as a short-term rental. Like there was nothing like unique about it. It would have done well as like a long-term rental. But like for what I was trying to do, it wouldn't have done. So my very first real estate project was a ground up short-term rental development, which was an A-frame that we own to this day. It's like an 800 square foot A-frame.
So you went from shopping around to saying, "Hey, I'm going to build it from the ground
Yeah.
up."
Yeah.
And what when you look at that, I don't know if it was an actual mentor or the guy that you're like, hold on, he's got a lot of wealth. What did his portfolio look like?
Yeah, there were all properties out of at that time before the Smokies really blew up, but like all of his cabins were in like Gatlinburg. I think he had some in the Virgin Islands as well, but like Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge area, they're like log cabins, which we build now, but that's what he had. I was just scrolling through Instagram once and I was like, what's the most like coolest property I can build that looks cool, but it's not like crazy expensive. Like it was only like 800 square foot, like I said. And then my exit was like, okay, if this doesn't work out, this was 2016. If this doesn't work out, I can just sell it, right? So like if I can just sell it or put a long-term renter in there.
So I'm glad you went there. You said 800 square feet. So let's give people some context, because I including myself, I don't, I'm good and know what I know, and this is why I have this show, can open up some insights and like the light bulb goes off. Like what are the numbers, man? If you want to walk us through that.
Yeah, no, I love talking about that first one because it's like the where the rubber meets the road. So before I say the numbers, I want to actually, there's a lot of money in land investing and just land, like structuring land deals and stuff. So that specific parcel was on top of a hill, beautiful mountain view, like almost like a 360 mountain view. And it was two 2-acre parcels that were attached to each other, and they were being offered together. With the construction loan that I got, the lender would only finance one parcel. They wouldn't finance both of them. So one side appraised for so much that the one side appraised for the purchase price, which we were able to get the other side for essentially $1 at closing. So then we used that land to build more projects down the road. So we practically made 50 grand at closing just that way. So I just want to get that out of the way.
Hold on. And I need to hold on. I got to peel back for a second, because you said that real quick. Hold on. You got a construction loan, right?
Yeah.
And what do
And
the
it was
numbers look
a
like for?
residential construction loan. Commercial
Okay.
is appraised a little bit different. Yeah.
Okay, so residential construction loan. Can you give us an idea of like what that process looks like at 1,000 foot level view? Because
Yeah,
that's not
a
something
thousand
most
foot
people
view
do.
is I mean, there's lenders out there that are doing this now, but at the time I had to get a second home loan, which I honestly I recommend to people who are looking to do something like this just to get started. There are specific rules that are specific in states and stuff, but I got a second home loan. It was 10% down. Right now they're like 15 to 20% down. But you can package land and the construction cost into one closing essentially. So they go off of the residential loans go off of the appraised value of the land. They don't go off of the purchase price. So we got a really good deal on that land where the land appraised for the purchase price without having to get the other piece of land involved. And then we just wrote a contract for $1, which was contingent on the other one closing. And then we own that piece of land free and clear.
I'm trying to understand the dollar part. Is that just because the other one
You can't purchase something for free. Like something can't just be thrown in. Yeah, it's just like I'm in North Carolina and that's just how those contracts work.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot what the actual term was for it, but it's like we just wrote up as long as the sellers were fine with it.
Yeah.
Which I guess some sellers can be a little touchy about that, but they were fine with just getting their contract, whatever their selling price was.
Okay, and the selling price was just for the land at the time. There was literally
Yeah, it was
nothing
50
on
grand.
that.
Yeah, it was raw land. Yeah.
What was their plan? I'm curious. Like, so they had that land and they had an additional property, or they just had that land? And again, we've had
No,
a
it
few
was
land
just
guys, right?
land. I think it was family land or something. And they just used it like storage. They would like store their boat on it or something. They would like back their boat up into it and just leave it. So
Yeah.
it was when we look back at it now, like it's definitely the highest and best use of that land for sure. So
Yeah,
that
100%.
yeah, so that's the first step is before I say these numbers is you can do stuff like that. I've talked to students before that we've done how I've helped friends do that with some of the development they're doing. But so we got that. So we say we purchased the land for 50 grand. Turnkey with construction, it was about with the land, it was about 250 grand. With furnishing everything. And that property, after all bills are paid for the last 3 years, but let's just say last year after debt service, everything, it netted $46,000.
Holy smokes.
So it's like if you have
That's-
3 of those, you're set. Like in
That's
terms of
crazy.
like you can do whatever the heck you want. So that's what
Wait, that's bananas, man. Seriously?
yeah. I can send you my numbers after this. Yeah. So it grossed 82,000, and then
Wow.
after it grossed 82,000, and then everything after that, 46,000 was left after debt service. And that's after a cash out refinance that we did last year where we pulled 30 grand out of the property.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's easy peasy right there.
We built it for 250. Appraisals are weird on A-frames because there's certain parts that can't be counted towards the square footage, which is funny. If I would have sold, I'm confident based off of what I've seen the last couple of years, even with this current market correction we're going through, I am certain that we built it for 250. Our loan is like just over 200,000. I'm confident I can sell that property for 500 grand easily. Yeah.
That's bananas. So I'm so curious, right? Like, so you built 250 all in, pretty much. You're netting 46K. And when you talk about the process of, okay, I'm gonna build a cabin, like
Yeah.
there's like a disconnect for probably most
Yeah,
listeners, because it's like, okay, either when you're talking new construction, that's a whole nother niche too. And now you're talking A-frame. So what's the biggest misconception that we want? Let's just tackle that and reverse engineer from there.
Yeah. So yeah, let's start. There's 3 pieces. It's going to be your general contractor, because I'm not my own general contractor. I'm a developer. So your general contractor, your real estate agent, if you're not licensed, even if you are licensed, I'm licensed, I still use a real estate agent because she's better than me. Like it's that simple. So
Same.
that's the second one, is a real estate agent that has dealt in buying and selling land, because that's different than residential. They're going to understand the intricacies of like land purchasing and stuff. And then the third piece is outside of market selection is I always like to say you have to think of and you're a short-term rental guy, so you can understand this. You have to think of the whole guest experience. it's not just the property. You have to think about what they're going through when they're driving to your property and when you're leaving your property and what that drive looks like. So I say that because you don't want your guests to be driving like 30 minutes up a gravel road before they even get to your property. So imagine, like, a lot of times they're new to the area, sometimes they're driving in at night, sometimes their reception will cut out. So you don't want them annoyed by the time they get to your property and scared, essentially. So that's the biggest thing, is we like to be off of some sort of double lane state maintained road, or at least a paved road going into our land. And then we'll put in driveways and stuff, but that's the first thing to think about when it comes to looking at land, because it might look cool in the MLS, or it might look cool when your agent sends it to you, but when you drive out there, you're like, okay, this is why it's priced this way or whatever.
That's such a good point, man. And this is why I
yeah.
love this, because that's something where I'm like, Main Street, like,
Yeah.
I'm an SDR guy. I didn't even think of that as a thing. So I
Yeah.
love that you
So
kind of
that's
called it out.
property selection. And then if
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I live in a metro area, this isn't going to work for me, or I live in a busy city, this is not going to work for me. And what I've told people that have said that is, wherever you live, there is, and I'll say this internationally, like wherever you live, there is a pocket that people, like a city that people like to vacation to in your city, that like to take like weekend vacations to. It could be like a market that's like 45 minutes to 2 hours away. So it's like, okay, I can't, land costs are crazy expensive in like the metro areas. Think of the places where people like to vacation in your city, like for like an extended weekend vacation. And that's probably where the market you want to get into. I would stay probably under an hour and a half for your first one, just because you're going to be driving out there a lot. So that's market selection. And then property selection is easy. You just hop on Airbnb and see what Airbnb is showing in your area as the top properties and just emulate those. So
I love that. That's so, again, so well structured. So you get you get your first one up,
yeah.
right? And you immediately see these numbers. What obstacles did you have to deal with there that someone might be thinking, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty straightforward? What are some things? I mean, you mentioned the street, that's a big one. What are some things that come to mind? You're like, oh, like if I were to do it over again, I definitely would not do that.
Yeah, just being very clear in your messaging, because you're gonna have, like, we live in the mountains, in your automated messaging, just being very clear on how the drive, like I said, the whole guest experience, how the drive looks like leading up to the property, because you still, for that property, we live in the mountains, so it's like you still have to go up a mountain. What we like to say here is like, if you want a mountain view, you're gonna have to drive up a mountain. Nobody wants to drive up a mountain to get a mountain view, but people from like Florida aren't used to that, so they just whatever market you're in, just being very clear in your messaging
Set expectations
for that, because that applies to all of our properties now. Is like, they might have the exact address, and that's another thing. Make sure you drive to your property while inputting the address that you're giving your guests, like the address of the property, because it might be way off. So like, also, that's happened to us more than once, where it's like you can go into Google and Apple and play around with your settings for like where the property actually is. And this is, again, investing in more rural areas. But yeah, that's the biggest thing I would say. If I had to do it again on that first one, we saw bookings pretty consistent coming in. I mean, obviously, like, we're charging way more now compared to when we first started, because we have the reputation of the property. But it's just like, people are drawn to those Instagrammable properties, is what I like to say, is like where the property is an experience outside of the city that they're visiting.
So let's talk on numbers for a second, because you mentioned 800 square feet, but for those of us who are not familiar with A-frames, what's the outlook like? Is it like a log? Is it
Yeah, it's a normal looking house, but it looks like a chapel, like it's like an A frame. An 800 square foot. We did a very open floor plan with pocket doors, no doors opening into the property. And it feels very spacious in there. There's a bedroom, a loft, and then a queen pull-out couch, so it could sleep 6 people in that 800.
So there's you said that real quick. You said the doors don't open.
Yeah, they're pocket doors. They go into the wall. Like, if you've ever seen those before, they'll slide into the wall.
Okay.
That's a design consideration I've never really talked about too much on a podcast. Is if you're building smaller properties, you don't want doors to be opening in and out, because they're going to be in the way. So it's like, we just do pocket doors on the inside, and then all of our exterior doors open out. They don't go into the house. Yeah.
Oh, that's really smart. And so the layout, is there, because you mentioned the loft, which I'm familiar with more or less, if you've ever been to like I guess a cabin, right? But
Yeah.
is there its own rooms as well, or when you say
Yeah.
800
So
square
there's
feet?
for that 800 square foot one, I personally like to do permanent foundation stick built houses. So we don't have any tiny houses on wheels. We don't have any yurts or anything. I teach that in my course, but
Mhm.
I don't like doing that myself currently, because we when we raised capital, that's what we do with our investors, is permanent foundation. Um, but yeah, the first one had a bedroom, and then it has a loft with a ladder to go up to it. And then all of my properties obviously have a full bathroom and a full kitchen. When I say full bathroom, a shower at minimum, and a full kitchen. I essentially try to stock them like if you're like cooking like a Thanksgiving dinner or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting, man. So from a financing perspective, is there any differentiation when we're talking cabin versus second home loan? I know there's a few different things, like there's DSCR loans,
There's
etc. Like
yeah.
what
So
kind
I
of tools
mean,
are we talking about here for?
yeah, I mean, any real estate you book, you read, you're like, you get to the financing piece and they're like, go to a credit union. And I didn't believe that. But like, there's so many local credit unions out there that are starting to finance stuff like this. So that's where I recommend starting first. But there are, like you said, like we just did one with a local credit union for $1 million, and I think $1 million. Yeah, just a little under $1 million. That was a DSCR loan. And there are a lot of lenders out there that are comfortable operating in this space now. So like the big ones that come off the top of my head outside of the credit unions is going to be Host Financial, Center Street Lending, and then Vizio Financing, which I think we just did a refinance with Vizio right before the huge interest rate hike.
Experimentation. I always experiment. And the reason why is I'm always trying to find the best tool, the best method, and the best vehicle to help me get to my end goal. One of the tools that we use in the short-term rental space is Guesty for Hosts. Now, experimentation, you know that I love to test things, and I wouldn't be sharing with you anything that I don't use myself. As a short-term rental superhost, Airbnb superhost, listings that we own and co-host at the same time, I can tell you that there's no better software that allows us to streamline our business. Right now, currently, there's actually 3 properties right now that are currently where guests are checking in, and I'm here with you, and I did not need to send in check-in instructions for these current properties, right? There are multiple ways that you can streamline your operation, from on the front end and on the back end, from being able to create a website, from being able to get income reports for your team, to looking at statistics, to setting up auto reviews, to integrating your smart lock so that you don't have to sit here and send every day and remind yourself to send the passcodes for your smart locks. No, instead you can integrate directly the exact same way that you can actually send your cleaners a link so that they don't have to remind themselves when they need to go to cleanings. There's text reminders that go out. There's links that can go out for them. This is a tool that if you're looking to give a smooth experience for your team on the back end, it will truly reflect, and it does, for your guests on the front end. Make sure you go to host.guesty.com and use our unique link. Our unique link will be in our bio, in the show notes. If you're currently watching this, you'll see it right here at the bottom of my screen. Use this unique link so that you can tell Guesty that I sent you. You don't want to miss out on this. You need a PMS, property management software, in your business if you're looking to operate like a super host that you deserve to be, so that your guests can have the best experience that they deserve to have at your properties. Again, that host.guesty.com. Use our unique link that is here on the screen, in the bio, and in the show notes if you're listening to this, guys. Happy hosting.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
how did you scale so quickly? And then for context for our listeners, like what does your portfolio look like today?
Yeah, so we're developing 10 million right now. So that's 24 cabins, and then we have 12 that are already built. I did the rental arbitrage model for a little bit, but not a little bit, I did for a couple of years. But what happened with that was once COVID hit and property values skyrocketed, all my owners sold their properties. So I was like, okay, I understand.
Oh, they just wanted to liquidate?
Yeah, they liquidated quick. I mean, because in our area, like we had property values like double in 6 months. Yeah, so I understood that. I mean, I was friends with almost all my owners. But
Would
yeah,
you have
so
would you have, I guess, retrospect, is that what you would say the best move for someone who's listening is like, oh, that like at the peak sell, or would you have refi, or like what did you do with yours?
I never recommend selling, man.
Yeah, right. That's what I was thinking. I'm like,
Yeah,
wow, a lot
yeah.
of them sold, huh? Like they just Like
refi. I mean,
Right.
refi, I mean, you're not going to get the full 100%, but refi at 75, 80%, you give yourself a little buffer in there anyways. The lender's not the bad guy a lot of the times. Like there's a reason why it's 80% or whatever that number is because there has to be a buffer in there in case a correction happens.
Yeah.
So I've always been a fan of just doing cash out refinances or HELOCs. Like I would recommend a HELOC right now over a cash out refinance if you got your rate like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I freaking just went all over your financing question.
No, I it's interesting because now at this point, you know, what I was asking originally is you talked about the lenders, which I appreciate, credit unions, super helpful. And the financing is pretty much you said second home loan. It's not so much on the commercial side, is it yet?
It is, yeah. A lot of
Okay.
our stuff is so like one thing that we can talk about here is we're doing this on 2 projects. You can get SBA 7A loans on these development deals. Huge stuff. And when you asked how we scaled so quickly, I brought on joint ventures very early on after like my 4th cabin. I was like, I originally brought on a friend or 2 friends, and then we stuck to the JV model. And now I've partnered with a couple fund managers where I'm essentially the deal finder and operator. And then we partner on the the general partnership together. And then their investors get like a preferred return and some sort of equity as well. But for people who are looking to take on JVs or like a partner, I recommend they're completely passive because I've learned my lesson a couple times there just through other people. Make sure they're completely passive and they understand that, especially if the person is local to your market, they're going to want to check up on the property, obviously. And then if you can't guarantee the loan yourself, my investors understood that they were helping me guarantee the loan with with also the capital they were bringing on. And then I took care of everything else.
How is it JV any different, if at all, from like for those of us who've been on this podcast, I've had, you know, LP syndicators, right? 506 C, 506
Yeah, I
B,
guess
all
you
that
can.
stuff.
Yeah, I guess you
Is
can
it
look.
different or is it the same? Or
I
what should
look at it
yeah.
differently because when I think of a JV, I think of one partner. It's one person. I'm not pooling together assets or I'm not pooling together capital. Which again, I'm not against that because my fund managers, the ones I work for, or the ones I bring deals to, they do that. So I'm not against the syndication model. I didn't want to pull together 100,000 here, 200,000 here, maybe 50,000 here when I first started. I just wanted to work with one point of contact. It's this investor. And honestly, looking back at it, it made it very clean. And I'm still open to doing that. It just makes it more clean on my end.
No, that's good to know because I was actually trying to understand, you know, why one would go with one way or the other. So in short, joint venture is literally finding that capital,
Yeah,
that cash partner.
Yeah, the key is the cash partner and for them to qualify, like to help you guarantee the loan with you. Those are the 2 big things. And both the JV partner and the general partner and me, the other side of the JV, there's way more equity that I get and he gets based off of a syndication model. So I guess that would be the other thing. Like I have 50% ownership in all of my deals, equity and cash flow on the JV side.
I was just gonna that you went straight to my next question. I was just gonna ask you how you structure out. So it's 50-50. You're doing basically you come in with the infrastructure, your expertise. You've done this, right? You had your 4th,
My
you went on to
team.
your 5th, etc. Your team. They're coming in as the almost like the partner who has the cash, that also who's also on the loan, right? And are you guys forming like an excuse me, I've never done
LLC.
JV anyway, LLC. Okay,
LLC.
cool.
I'm the member manager, and then they're just the member, but they have 50% ownership.
Yeah. I got a insight I'll share with you, and I won't butcher it because it just came up in our SDR retreat, but the listeners might appreciate it. But it was interesting from an asset protection perspective. There's like where you could do a combination of like a Wyoming LLC and like an Arizona partnership. You know about that?
I haven't done it yet with like Delaware stuff as well.
Yeah.
But I've read enough of those Robert Kiyosaki like sub books, like in the Rich Dad series, where it talks about asset protection through Wyoming and Delaware LLCs.
Yeah, it was like this one was like an Arizona partner. I don't know if it's the same Arizona partnership. I'll text it to you. But it was interesting because it was just like literally like bulletproof. I was like, oh,
bulletproof, dude. Like the lawyer has to go to the state, like fly to the state to like get a charging order. That was crazy
Yeah.
to learn about.
Yeah, and it came from the guy who was a litigator, so he knew everything. He was
Yeah.
like, I tell my client, like, it's not even worth it for me to go after this
Yeah,
property
it's
'cause
one of
not
those
gonna
things you
work."
don't think about. And for the people who aren't listening or like confused as hell, it's like to protect yourself, we're talking about like different asset structures and stuff, but we're like it's like the first line of defense is just making the attorneys the
Life
other
difficult.
attorney's job hard to get a charging order or to like to be able to sue you. And that had clicked with me when I read that.
Yeah, you want to have layers of defense, and like if it's gonna be that hard, they're like, nah, I
No,
know
I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's not
Like,
worth it.
yeah.
That's awesome. So it was like that was one of the key takeaways. First tier is like the proper insurance, like not no
Yeah.
pun intended, the right insurance.
Yeah.
And then having that asset protection layer, which is we're definitely gonna look into as well. We're getting restructured this year completely with all of our
Oh, it's fun, dude.
entities.
I've
It gets
been
interesting, right?
I've been putting it off because it's you're restructuring your whole business. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you cost tag your cabins?
Yeah. That's one of the first things the fund managers ask is about like cost seg. I was like, okay, because I work with mainly multifamily guys that got into short-term rentals.
Okay, that's cool.
So they're like they understand that. When I first started with the JV stuff and learning the syndication talk, I read multifamily books just to understand that talk. When I raised capital, the very first podcast I went on was with multifamily investors. It's like, hey, you guys are getting a 3% cap over here. Like I'm netting 46 grand over here. Like,
Okay, can we talk about that? Because I think that
Yeah.
sometimes goes over people's heads, and it's like I'm still asking the question just to make sure, like, hey, like, is there something that I'm missing here? Like, because I've talked a lot about, because right now what's hot and what we're talking about and optimizing for is boutique hotels, right?
Yes,
It's kind of
dude.
like if you
Absolutely,
understand
man.
this model as a short-term rental operator, it's like, dude, like take that to commercial, like you
Yeah, dude.
forced depreciation, like that. It's just it's bananas.
Yeah,
right? And
that's our next step is to do like conversions into boutique hotels, like themed boutique hotels. Yeah, dude.
and there's so many mom and pops.
Yeah,
And
dude.
so it's like that was one of the biggest key takeaways when I, from the mastermind retreat that we had.
Is that SCR Legends, if you don't mind me asking? Or on
No,
the
no, no. That
podcast?
was Mike Shogren and Bill Faith.
Yep.
And that group was 100 people,
Awesome.
very high ticket and tight knit, very,
Yeah.
very like informational. And it was like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, like this is the game. And yeah, shout out to Mike, man. Mike's closing on his third boutique hotel, and I've been
Yeah,
to
that's
both
awesome.
in person.
So where that idea came from with the boutique hotels was like we're doing these like micro resort communities right now of like 6 to 9 cabins that are clustered. That I mean, when I say like I want to get to 650 cabins, that's one of the ways that we're doing it. And I was like, okay, what's the next step? Like we're still gonna be doing that, but I was like, the next step is like like themed boutique hotels.
Oh my God. Like I've seen it, man. It's like when I went to Mike's in Rockport, like I pulled up and I was like, oh man, like right in front of water. It was just like,
Yeah,
and
that's
like
awesome.
and the returns. And the thing is, it's, multifamily, it's like the gross operating income, right? And the value add that you put in there, like just quadruple X it's like a 2-in-1. So
And it's almost like you can give up some of the cap rate. Like, okay, I'll sell it at a 7% cap or whatever.
Mhm.
People would jump at that in a heartbeat, but what you're selling it at is going to be so much more than what you put into it.
Yeah.
Like operating it as a short-term rental.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to get a 7% cap right now. So
No, it's compressed. So I was thinking that, like, am I just jaded because I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, or is it something where, like, right now, if I were to give you 2 doors, be like, hey, you can like slam dunk into multifamily, and or do what you're obviously doing. What's the obvious for you and for our listeners, like just so you can kind of put it out there, because I want to hear from a guy who's doing it at scale. Like what's so obvious to you that you're like, no, I'm gonna do what I'm doing?
yeah, it's the numbers, man. We just went through the numbers. Okay, I could put here's a very easy thought experiment to do. Just take the property that you're considering developing or purchasing and run it as a long-term rental and see how much you're going to make, and then compare it to the short-term rental stuff. Like it's a no-brainer. If you're talking about 2 doors, like it really is a no-brainer. I mean,
do you think the
numbers,
economies of scale changes with multifamily? Like why
I think it's just an adoption type thing. It's funny because I was just on a talking to a different person earlier, and it was a multifamily podcast, and we're like, I had said that some people who are listening should consider taking it was mainly multifamily owners that were listening. And I was like, some people should, if your city doesn't allow for short-term rentals, you can just skip the short-term rental rules and get a hotel permit. Like,
Facts.
so take your multifamily unit and just turn it. Maybe you just start with 2 units just to test it. But
100%.
yeah, to start with 2 units just to test it. If it doesn't work, you just switch to the other one. Say like 2 people just didn't re-sign their leases. Okay, cool. Those are now short-term rentals. Just test it out that way. You don't even got to be the manager of it. Just put another manager under it. But yeah, no, I talked to enough people that are doing that. I mean, I know Saunders, the biggest operator in that world, but they rent their properties. But yeah, turn your multifamily thing into a boutique hotel. If it doesn't work out, maybe do it with a couple of units. You can switch back over. You're not losing anything. It's literally exactly what you said. Like, it's the economies of scale of like when I first started, I underwrote that property as a long-term rental, that A-frame. If it doesn't do well, it's going to be a long-term rental. It's the same thing with the multifamily stuff, just way bigger numbers, a couple extra zeros. Yeah.
Love that, dude. I needed to hear that from someone who's kind of like been on both sides, because sometimes I get into multifamily where I'm like, is it just because like it's what they've always done, or am I missing something? Like, you know what I mean?
Think so. Yeah. And I've talked to some people who have like have made that jump, like there's a project in New Orleans that I think it's 400 units. And it was originally a multifamily building that they purchased, and then they're selling it all as short-term rentals.
Yeah. Because even if you had, and again, this is where I'm just gonna do it. It's like, even if you want to have a diverse portfolio, right, and maybe you want to create a fund or whatever the case might be, it's like, okay, we have long-term rental multifamily, and then we have boutique hotels, and this is why you should, again, funds are a little bit different now, because that's a whole different ball game. But I feel like in that sense you'd be diversified, and it's like, okay, like we have the STR 3X, what a long-term rental does, and then we have the just free, we have these 3-year leases in just for you guys who are a little less risk averse.
Can I share like the secret sauce a little bit with even that for people who like are looking to get in the syndication world? Is I got on these podcasts with the multifamily stuff, and I essentially just got interviewed by the owner of the fund, because they have their own funds as well. Nice. Of the podcast, and they're like, do you want to work together? It was like the easiest conversation to make. So it's like, yeah, like all of my people that I work with now, the 3 main funds I work with were all in the multifamily space.
Got it. Yeah. When you say you work with funds, what does that entail? Sorry.
Yeah, so they will raise the capital. They'll give their investors a preferred return and some sort of equity split, depending on what the deal looks like. And then I take a percentage of the joint partnership, or sorry, the general partnership. And I put no money out of my own pocket, and then I manage the project. That's not a true 50-50, because we do I charge a management fee inside of the budget, like inside of the pro forma. Inside of the pro forma, I do charge like a management fee to my company, but I still have an equity split, and I'm putting none of my own money into the deal. Initially I am for due diligence, but then I'm refunded at closing.
It's crazy, man. So wait, is this all part of Sargon Investments, or you have some other,
that's where the JV stuff happens. Mm-hmm. Any person that comes through that website and you can self-accredit yourself through our website. I usually just push them to the next fund that we're going to be working with, and then they handle all the investor relations and everything.
Dude, yeah, you're a savage, bro.
No, man, appreciate
it. Dude, no, because we're just scratching the surface with you here, man. How old are you, man?
27. Yeah.
What? Oh my God, it's over. All right, man. You guys get familiar with Alex. I had no idea, man. I thought you were early 30s.
That's why I keep the beard to make me look older, to be honest, man. I walk into when I was 24, I like walked into a bank. I'm like, I need $1 million, and they're like, get out of here. Like,
oh, bro, you're hilarious. That's awesome. Who inspires you, man? Like what gets you out of bed?
Yeah, who inspires me? Yeah, so like I wouldn't necessarily say what inspires me is my wife and I want to start a 501c3 nonprofit so I've never been back to where my parents grew up. So my parents are from northern Iraq. the war, and then also just politics and stuff that happened with like ISIS in 2013 destroyed a big portion of like where both my wife's family grew up and then also where my parents grew up. So we want to put something together. In the next year, we're going to start it for sure. We've already started it, but like actually putting money to work in the next year, of like rebuilding some of those communities. Because like that was like, that's like old, like that's like the setting of the Bible is like where like my parents grew up and stuff. So it's like that's like my big why. And I'll tell you, and this is going to sound a little weird, but my big why for a very long time, man, for I would say about 8 years, 9 years, was taking care of my parents and then making sure my wife and I were good to go. At the time, it was just my girlfriend, so it was my parents. But now, like I've been married for 3 years. It's like making sure my wife and ourselves are good to go, and then we can travel and do these awesome things, and then making sure my parents were good to go. And the weirdest thing happened is when I achieved that, you like look around and you're like, okay, like, was that it? Right. And it's crazy that it happened to me like so young. But so that's, I urge people to like get motivated through something, or build a business around something that you can like, that can support something else, where it's something that's bigger than yourself, is essentially what I'm trying to say. Because that will get you out of bed faster than anything, faster than you might be, people who are listening right now might be in this like weird spot where they're just trying to get their bills paid, or they're living paycheck to paycheck or something, or they're just trying to build their business. But I would urge you guys to like really try to focus on a cause. It could be anything that's like way bigger than yourself.
That's facts, bro. And you know, it's funny because we were talking offline a little bit. That's why I've kind of really, the agency was first.
Right.
And then I fell into short-term rentals. And what I love about this space is that we've involved all our family with it. I got my brother SDR, parents-in-law,
Yeah.
like my wife and I, like, and it's just been able to grow with each other, right? And then seeing how it benefits everybody else and
benefits everybody else. You see the awesome stories, that the reviews that you get from your guests.
Yeah. So it's that's what and that's when I realized it's like when you talk about like a lifestyle business too, you know, it's just
that's it right there, a
really
lifestyle
important.
Business.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people come like me, like I came from the military working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and then I essentially started my own business. People get caught up sometimes in that I'm going to leave my 9 to 5 or whatever to start my own business, and then you become trapped in that. And then it's like you have to like lifestyle by design. It's like your business should support your lifestyle, not the other way around.
That's awesome, bro. So listen, man, you talked about your ambitious goal of developing 650 cabins, which, bro, there's no doubt that you're gonna do that. Like,
I appreciate you, man.
You're a stock. I doubled down on it now. So go public already. No, but so I'm doubling down on you. I believe in the brand. You're also trying to, we were talking about offline, and I want to make sure you get a chance to, you know, plug away. You're getting into being able to kind of put a very special course and blueprint and guide together for other people to do the same, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I spent the last 6 months sort of putting together I put a course together that I wish I had when I started 6 years ago. Essentially, that was the whole mindset, was like, when I wrote the outline to it, it's like over 110 videos, 120 videos, templates, group coaching, everything that you need. I was like, I wish I had that when I started. What did I need when I first started? So it's a short-term rental development course, literally start to finish, how to choose a property, how to choose the land. We literally scratched the surface on it on this call, of just like talking about like what's in the course, like just very particular to like a very specific niche. It's like real estate, short-term rentals, and then short-term rental development.
Yeah. And that's so key, because honestly, what I've seen having guys and gals in here on this platform is, you know, the sharper your I don't know, whatever, it's a knife or whatever you want to call it, that tool, spear. I like that. Spear is better, more appropriate. I mean, the more niche you are, the deeper you go and the bigger impact you have, and then you can, you know, what we call like diversify or whatever it is that you want to do. But I think there's there's niches and there's riches in the niches. And
Yeah, it's like a
you know,
phenomenal book on that is
Yeah.
Niche Down by Christopher Lockheed.
mm,
It's like niche down and then make your impact in that niche, and then if you want to go do bigger things, you can. You have the
Yeah.
backing to do that.
yeah, that's very hard for people, by the way. Like I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you start a business and like you work on your avatar, whatever your guest, your customer avatar, your guest avatar. They're like, who's your customer? You're like, everyone. You're like, no,
nope,
like,
absolutely not. Yeah, it's so funny because that's you know, that's, you guys know, like this show, right? Our my team at investedtown.com, like we specifically just serve real estate,
that's
not just
awesome.
investors, real estate thought leaders. So people like you who are investing, who also have something to offer to the community, period. All right. And that's, you know, and we turn down business if people are not that. And that's pretty cool when you can do that, when you really niche, because then it's the next obvious thing is like, oh yeah, like go with these guys. That's what they do, and that's what you're looking for.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so critical.
And like you said, you can defer a lot of business to a lot of other people. You're like, okay, this is not going to work for us, but I can refer you to someone else, and then you usually have a relationship with that person too.
Yeah, and it's more genuine too. Like if someone
Yeah.
turns down my business, I'm like, oh, cool. Like if you don't, it's almost like not being thirsty, because you don't have to be, because you know what
Yeah.
you're good at, and you want to serve them best. So I actually think that leaves a better you know, taste in my mouth. I'm like, okay, cool. Like you were able to
Right.
say that no, this is not a good fit, rather than be like, oh yeah, like bring me the business, we'll do like a half-ass job on it.
Yeah,
Not the
yeah, for
move,
sure.
not the move.
And
But
you
I
don't
think
understand, you wouldn't understand that industry that well either.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's hard. Like unless you've been, yeah. Again, that's why you would have to be niche first and then go broad later and then hire those experts. But again, bro, I think you're killing it. You're gonna kill it. And how can, you know, I want to check out some of these properties, man. So, you know, where can we check out some of this stuff? Where
Yeah,
can
so
we tap in with
so
you?
I have a pretty small YouTube channel, but I have a YouTube channel that I sort of detail all the stuff that I'm working on. Essentially, I was going out to all my properties. I was like, I'm just gonna bring a camera with me and just show people through my eyes what I'm looking at. And so like my YouTube channel goes through like real estate development, management, all that fun stuff. You guys can go on my personal site, which is alexjarbo.com. That's where the course lives as well. Like you guys can sign up through the course through there. But yeah, all my interviews are on my YouTube channel or my personal site, alexjarbo.com.
And that YouTube channel is called Alex Builds, right?
Yep, Alex Builds. It's a little logo of a blue tree house.
All right, and I gotta correct you for a second, because you said you got a little channel, but I refuse to hear those kind of words. You have a channel that's growing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
got you here. I'm gonna pull it up, but
I guess I mean there's like 750 subscribers. I feel like I mean that's not bad for like a niche channel like that. Yeah.
well,
Gotta get to those Rob Built numbers, man. That's who when you say who I looked up to, definitely
Yeah.
him, man. He's up there.
He kind of, it's so funny because I discovered him this year, and then I pulled up Bigger Pockets, and I'm like, and I saw he was like, he's like what, a co-host now?
He's a co-host of the Bigger Pockets podcast. And what's funny is, and it's funny that we're talking about this on the podcast. I had purchased a couple I was still in the short-term rental space, but he was offering like one-on-one coaching, just like one call at a time. So I purchased a call from him. I forgot how long ago was. I think it was 2018 or 19. And it was when the channel was still smaller. But we were talking about like, dude, like Bigger Pockets is so like behind the curve when it comes to this stuff, like 2018, 19.
No way.
And they were, and now they're not, because like he's the co-host of the podcast. They've published a book with short-term rental stuff, and then like I'm a writer for their blog. But it was very interesting, like seeing the evolution of him in the last couple of years as well, because it's like where he's at Bigger Pockets. I feel like that's like his permanent home now.
Yeah, him. It's funny because I'll give a shout out to it. I'm gonna see Tony Robinson for the first time because I'm going to San Diego this weekend.
Oh yeah, Tony Robinson. Yeah.
It's funny because it's so funny. Speaking, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, his wife's from Iran. But anyways,
yeah. I met both of them last year. Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, but I love what they've done with their brand. So, you know, I pulled my wife into this, and we're building it together. And then when I look, I'm like, yo, you see Tony and, you know, I think it's Sarah, right? Like that's the way. And like I love how integrated they are, because A, they're crushing it. B, they're also doing retreats too, which I love, love the idea of masterminds in person. That's what I'm working towards. And then they also, what I love and what I appreciate and what I respect you for as well is the brand association. You have your own brand, but you're also collaborating with a bigger brand. And I think that's the best thing you can do as a brand that's growing, because now it's like,
Yeah.
oh, Tony and Bigger
Yeah.
Pockets and you, right? You're right. I want to give a shout out to that because you kind of said it subtly, but I want to put some respect on it. You know, make sure
Appreciate
you
you, man.
check out, absolutely, make sure you check out Alex's work, Alex Jarbo, that is on Bigger Pockets. He is actively writing for Bigger Pockets. Am I correct?
Yep, yeah. Once every
Yeah.
2 weeks they push out an article that I write. Yep.
And that's incredible, man. And so the fact that you can do that, I think Bigger Pockets is one of, it
I
has a
think it's the
huge
biggest.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge. And
Yeah,
I
I
know
mean,
that. Yeah,
I
because
wasn't ready for that business, man. Like it was like I posted my first article and it was right before the interest rates went up and it was like just a flood of investors and you're like, okay, how do I handle this? Yeah.
oh wow, that's awesome. That's a great story. And you know, I can say I'm forever indebted because Bigger Pockets have really put me on. Like if you you know, I met my first investor partner that I work with in Atlanta, and then I had many friends that actually came to my wedding from Bigger Pockets. Like I've
Oh,
helped them
awesome,
get
man.
into short-term rentals, and like
Yeah.
we managed it together. Like it's crazy, like the network that in community that I built. So I've always given a shout out to Bigger Pockets, and
Yeah,
you
man,
know,
and all their books, like their books have been the foundation to what I do outside of the multifamily books I've read. Like when I first started, there weren't really any short-term rental books out there.
yeah,
Like there was one, but it was like from the like early 2000s. So that like it's insane. Like I leaned on those books very heavily to help me get where I'm at. And I'm sure a lot of people who are starting like
yeah.
with that journey, like just follow those books, follow that community. It'll get you places.
Yeah. Yeah. And Experiment Nation knows we've had a lot of folks on there. Now I'm so glad to have you part of that entity. That we had Avery Carl on our show as well. And she's
Oh,
super out in
phenomenal.
Georgia. I
Phenomenal
read her
book.
book. Oh yeah, I read
Great
her
book.
book, had her on our platform.
Yeah.
She's super, and we've actually exchanged some business together because she's out in Georgia, and I'm licensed in Georgia as well, and that's where where we plant our seeds.
Yeah.
But it's good to just collaborate, man. So
Yeah.
awesome, man. So we got the Alex. I just want to put, I'm starting to do this while I'm podcasting now. We did it for the first time yesterday. So I want to make sure that, you know,
Oh,
if
I
you guys
love
are
it, man.
tuning into the video, you know, we got you
Yeah.
covered, man. And you see this button right here. I need you guys to hit that subscribe. You can see that we did that live. Alex builds a great brand and obviously niched. And you guys got to tap into what he's doing. We'll make sure that we do as well. And Alex, you said the best place. So we got your YouTube channel, Alex Builds. We can find you in Bigger Pockets.
Yeah, if you guys want to hop on, I'm pretty good on LinkedIn as well. If you guys
Cool.
if you guys want to DM me, LinkedIn, Instagram, you guys can probably just find me by my name as well. But I'm pretty active in LinkedIn. If I get on Instagram, I'll be on it for hours. So
yeah, good for you. Discipline, man. I might team post, but I try to stay away as well. Except for my stories. You guys know I'm good for my stories. I do update
For
my
sure.
stories. I'll make sure I give a shout out for today as well. Listen, man, thank you for coming on. And just like that, we are out.